Hi guys, and welcome to this new build series. If you're familiar to the channel, then you'll recognise the car we're going to be building. It is our Mk6 Fiesta Duratec S. What we're intending to do with the car is to rear engine swap it. It's going to be the ST150 engine that was in the front, it's going to be in the back. Like I said, if you know the car, it's not a 1.4 Duratec E engine in it anymore. Me and George, who's behind the camera, converted it to run a ST150 engine. We did a video on that, on what was involved and what you needed to do. We did that video at the beginning of the first lockdown, just so to sort of keep us ticking over and give us some sort of purpose in life in that weird sort of time. Since then, we did have some plans with the car, but those never really turned out, and we changed ideas. And if you can see to my left, again, if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know what that car is. That's my Duratec, my ST150 rallycross car. That car I'd had and was a track car, and we ended up converting it to rallycross spec. That was the original plans for that, but obviously we did it with that instead. This car is all stripped out at the moment, ready to go. Through the process of building that, I learned some things, so hopefully everything that I've learned from that we'll put into this. As I always say, every day's a school day, so you're going to be along for the ride. This is the first time that we've done a rear engine swap, so as much as we've done loads of research on it and tried to figure out the best way to do it and all that sort of jazz, it is a bit of a dive into the deep. But hopefully we're going to take you along with the process, and you can follow along and see what's involved and maybe get some ideas for yourself. So follow along and see how we get on. So I'm behind the camera now, as you can see, it's all stripped out, ready for us to go. It's absolutely, well, I say absolutely nothing, there's hardly anything left in it. We've gutted it out as best as we can. This is the, my Cobra seat, my old seat that was in Phoenix before we had to get one that was back in date again. That's the old half cage that was in the back of Phoenix. We'll be reusing that, it'll be getting repurposed. And this is the front half that we've got from JP Cages. The rear half was a JP cage as well. Well, the main hoop was we made the rear stays. So we'll be using this to go in. So next job for us is we're going to push it back into the corner, and then we will pull this door off as well, so it's not hitting us, it's not in the way, and then we're going to get it squared up, and then we're going to throw the cage in and start getting it tacked into the body. Right then, so this is our end of the first day. We've had about 5.5 hours on it, five hours on it. So far we've got cages in, sort of. The main tubes are bracketed, bolted together, and are all welded up. We have got the rear is just sat in, and it's, George comes round, you'll be able to see we just on some tabs. Because we don't know how we're going to bolt it or weld it into the floor yet. Well, we do, but we need to get to it. We don't want to make plates for it yet. So we'll do that once we're a bit more cut out. Obviously you can see there's a big hole in the floor as well. So that was the rear seat, which is the rear seat base, which is there. So that's our first day. It's not been a bad start for the day, I don't think. Next up, we will be making a jig for the front end to sort of find where all our suspension mounting points are going to be. Once we've done that, then we're going to start riveting out or drilling out all the rear spot welds on the back, and then we can start taking some panels out the back of it, which is going to be like a pretty big step forwards. From there, progress will probably slow down a little bit whilst we try and figure some maths and do some science and stuff to try and make it work. So as you can see from inside, we're now pretty much cut out. All you can see left of that rear section of floor is the rear chassis rails. We've left them in place to try and keep some strength in the shell, even though I don't really think it's going to need it. Just so we can, we've left it in there so we can keep some strength in the shell. We will be trimming it back, and the idea is to cut back to sort of around this point here. Their back on both sides will be going. We want to try and keep as much chassis rail in this place as possible so that we can build off of that. Likelihood is we're going to go off of that chassis rail to go to our gearbox mount and to our engine mount this side. I've literally just finished taking the front suspension out and subframes. Next job is going to be to then start building a jig for the front end. Our jig's going to come off of the strut top mounts, and then we're going to line it up with where the subframe mounts on the front. Once we've got that, then we can transfer that over to the body, right into the back. We can start making some more cuts and start trying to get the jig tacked into place, and then we can build up from that. So come back to us in a sec, and hopefully there'll be a bit less floor and a bit of jig made. Hi guys, how we doing? So come back to us now, and we've got our chassis jig made up. If we look inside the engine bay, you can see all those bars there. We've got a few. This one here, that is going up to the front suspension mount. This bar back here, that goes into the rear suspension mount. And then this bar here, that follows along and then goes into a strut top location. We've also got like a strut bar that is there to hold the width. So if it does ping in or move around, we know that we've got the right widths for the top mounts there. Coming back round to the side, you can see we've got this bar here. That bar there is to give us a height. At a later date that will be cut off and positioned down 30mm. We're doing that to give us a better height for the subframes inside the body. We have had it on and off a couple of times, and we have offered it up into the back. So you can see where we've relieved a bit of chassis rail now, as we're making space for it to fit in. If I walk around to the back, you can see a bit better how we've chopped her out. We will level these up and make it a bit more symmetrical, but yeah, that gives you an idea of how the build is going and where we are with it. So I think that's going to cut it for this video. I don't think there's going to be much more you need to see in this initial sort of phase with the build. Come back to the next one, and we're going to start putting the struts into the back. That's going to be our first phase. Get the strut tops in, and then we can set all our heights and all of our angles and stuff like that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Follow us on Instagram at Stitch Motorsport, where you can see things happening. Also, like and subscribe to the channel, that'd be really helpful, and then you can see things as they go and as they progress. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you soon. Bye.